Hello again, I'm Doug Smith, and this is the 31 October 2014 edition of Portsmouth This Week, the voice of Portsmouth Town Hall. Our guest today is Dave Kehew, the Director of the Public Works Department. Welcome back, Dave.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. We're now completing, completing the third year of a fully funded road maintenance project. How's that going?
Excellent. Very, very thankful for our town administrator, Mr. Klimm, who supported this right from the beginning, has never blinked during this whole process. He's allowed me to go out into the field and make decisions that have to be made on the spot, ultimately saving money, and I'm very appreciative of that. That's sincere. And President Savigny supports this 100%. So we have a council supporting our road maintenance program, and the hope, of course, is that this continues well into the future. I can speak to some of the success stories over the last 3 years, and it's kind of funny when you write it out and you say, oh, that's right too, we did do that. But we had 4 major flooding issues that have been plaguing the town, some of them for 30 years, and so we were able.
These are long-term
issues. They actually had no wake zones, posted, that kind of thing, and so there were, serious issues, and they were all difficult issues. Some saying, we're not going to be able to resolve them. And of course, there's always a solution, when you get the right people working together towards a common problem. And we were able to install, I won't get into all the complexities of...
I know you could talk about paving for 3 days.
Well, paving and drainage. So we installed 3 underground injection control systems where there is no drainage available, so it's within the road system itself. We did that for Rhode Island Boulevard, we did that for Cove Street, we did that for Islington Avenue, and then a very challenging one, which we just completed this year, is on Sherman Ave. And that one, we were going to do an underground injection control system. The soils were too tight. It would have been cost prohibitive to do that type of system. So we looked at easements through yards, pumping chambers, and finally, just from pressing and pressing, came up with a gravity system which really utilized 4 different types of piping materials and elevations to have gravity, which is the best because there's no maintenance in the gravity system other than clearing out your structures.
Sherman Ave is in what part of town?
That's right off of Stubtoe Lane by Cumberland Farms.
Okay. Right
up the road to the left. The countryside development is to the south of that.
Okay.
And so that was a major success. We still have drainage issues throughout town, and but we decided that we're tackling the most difficult ones first. So that part of the, it's always drainage and paving, is never one alone. And so that's been successful. The paving project, on every paving project, there's always puddles and issues with water. Sometimes there's no drainage on the road whatsoever, so you're relying on grades and sheet flow. And particularly in like Common Fence Point, which we did this year, for that whole stretch of Anthony Road, there are no structures.
It's like a foot over the high water mark or something.
And so it becomes complex. And then, but we've still been successful. We've reached out to neighbors where they had some issues. But we can't take an adverse issue and then say, oh, we're just going to send it down to your neighbor. So working cooperatively, and there's one gentleman I'd like to publicly acknowledge and thank. His name's Mr. Peter Howland, and he lives out near the end of Common Fence Point. And we got together with him, and working together, we were able to take a rather large section of water and direct water towards his structure, and able to use permeable pavers to get rid of water. So that's a huge win, and that kind of cooperation is what makes success. So that was huge. So to put it in a nutshell, in the last 3 years, not including, we still have spring paving coming up, But for the last 3 years, we've completed 70 roads in that time frame.
Yeah.
That's a huge undertaking for a very small crew. And we have 112 miles worth of roads, town accepted public roads to take care of. And we're well on our way, but we have to stay the course. We cannot back off of funding the road maintenance program.
Yeah.
And everybody sees the asphalt, and the difficult sell is we have the catch basins and structures and piping that's underground. And whenever you have that type of stuff that you can't see, people often forget about. I don't forget about it. And so we know the condition, and everything is checked before we pave. The sin is you pave a road and then you have to go back
and dig it up. Yeah.
That sometimes it happens, and we try to avoid that.
Okay, so the key is to keep this thing needs to be funded every year. As I recall, the last council deferred maintenance for 2 years on the roads.
Defer, and from any public works guy, engineer, when you use the word defer, it is
meaning
neglect.
Not funded.
It's neglect. When you neglect an asset, only bad things happen.
Yeah, and exactly. And I think people need to understand that our key infrastructure, being our roads,
the largest. It's over $200 million.
Yeah.
That's on my plate. I'm responsible for it,
Okay.
and I'm passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I take it seriously.
I can tell you, the only guy I know who's passionate about paving.
There's
that's
others.
great.
There's I say wasn't just honestly, like a couple months ago, I was with 3 or 4 different engineers and friends, and we actually discussed paving. I'm not kidding you.
I'm glad I wasn't there, Dave.
It was a 4-hour conversation. It was a 4-hour conversation.
Well, the last time you were on, you talked about a software program from Beta Engineering.
Yes.
That helps you guys decide, what the priorities are.
Right.
Can you describe that briefly, and then how is that working out?
Sure. It's working out excellent. I had started the work on a pavement management program back in 1997. I was,
Of your own?
No, when hired by the town.
Okay.
I came in as a deputy
but
director.
I mean, you were making the program, or
yes,
That's
essentially.
right. You did it all by cards. Or
I
something,
did.
or
I
paper.
came up with a very comprehensive. There's over 69,000 entries from walking the roads of Portsmouth, and I said, if I'm going to do it, I measured the width, the length and walked every single road in the town of Portsmouth. Made notes as to locations of catch basins and structures. And then I did a condition rating. It was what we refer to as an RSR value, and that's what's kind of common in the talk of when it comes to pavement management. But for the beta management, it dovetailed in perfectly because I was able to get everything into an Excel spreadsheet, and they were able to import data, and that saved the town a great deal of money, and it works. It's an access database. So within that database, there are what-if scenarios. It tells you it's nothing more than another tool in the toolbox. It's not here's the printed report and it says you're going to do this and this type of treatment. That's left up to myself and Brian Woodhead. We know the roads better than anybody, and our men in town. And so that is left open. We plug in values into that. That being said, I'm way behind on updating our paving. Not a big deal, but it's these little things that take a little bit of time that I haven't been able to find to do. Mr. Klimm, and rightfully so, he's said to me a few weeks ago that he would like to have like a couple years worth of things that we could put on the website as to what roads so people can look and see.
Sure.
And I agree with him 100%. So that's something the boss wants it. I'm going to do it, and I have to find the time to make sure that happens. The essential part of a pavement management program is we want to extend the life cycle of the road. you know, some of the old, never mine, but some of the old way of thinking was, you know, you do your worst roads first. And meaning that you would have somebody on a decrepit road, and then, you know, the argument would be, how come you can see all the potholes on our road, and that road's in better condition? You know, why are you doing that? And the answer is because it makes economical sense. It saves the taxpayers money. You know, we know that once a road falls into reclamation, that's as worse as it's going to get. So you have to do a variety of different measures at a specific time and cost to extend the, you know, think of it as a network, right? So if I did the worst roads first, instead of doing 70 roads, I've done 15. You know, that's the payoff. So you got to protect your assets, extend the useful life of them, and you do have to, you know, these ones that people are living on horrible, horrible roads, you know, we do have to address those as well.
Now, this program presumably gives you a way to go in and check and see how you're doing overall, right?
It does, absolutely. And, you know, we're able to come up with capital plans, and, you know, the issue is that, you know, there's a big difference between walking the road and assigning values and then having, you know, somebody ride, you know, they call it drive-by, and just assigning RSR values. So there's, and this is on any pavement management program, there wouldn't necessarily call them mistakes within the paving program, but items that need to be corrected, I guess, would be a better way of putting it. And so that, you know, right now, you know, we went from spending nothing on roads to $1 million a year. And so that is proven, you know, it's challenging, but, you know, my main focus is what's up ahead of me, what do I need to do? Our guys that work for us, they're very good, they understand, they've saved the town money. You know, all of these structures on the side of the road, some of these things are the old barrel blocks. All of the men are trained and know how to build these structures, and we do that in-house. We're one of the few communities that do that. But it's important that these guys, you know, are part of the team. They know that they have to protect these assets, and we check the conditions of the pipe. And some of them are simple things, you know, go down a couple blocks, but some of them are total rebuilds from the bottom up, where it's not cost effective to say, oh, why don't you just drop in a new precast? And because of pipes coming in and out and so forth. It's not new construction, it's rehab work. So we're fortunate to have the men that we have. We got a core group of guys who are excellent, do a good job for us, and you know, pretty proud of that.
Okay.
And it's worked out well.
Now, what paving projects were completed this year? You're just about done with your paving, right? Because of the weather, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, the actual laying down of asphalt through P.J. Keating, who is the one who won the bid, lowest qualified bid. Excellent company, you know, excellent to work with. Guys, you know, Carty had it for the last couple of years. P.J. Keating won the bid this time, and there's been some of the old timers that I missed. You know, they're no longer with the company that I've dealt with. You know, over the last 20 years, even previous to me coming into Public Works, I've worked with some of these guys, and some of them are gone. But you know, some of the key players, the foremen on the job site, they continue training. So working with them has been good. Right now, this morning, you know, as we speak, they're going to be done. There's some specific projects that they were tasked with some extra things because it was either, you know, bond money or through negotiations. Subdivisions that should have been paved some years ago, that didn't happen. So we were successful in obtaining funds to be able to tackle those. So it's not, you know, Public Works isn't going to go in there and do the loam and seeding like we are in all our other neighborhoods. You know, it's a line item, they won the bid, and so they're loaming and seeding and Greystone and Greystone Terrace, which is off of Middle Road. So they're going to be done today, and which is nice, you know. Our guys will continue backing up the berm, essentially. You know, when we put the new asphalt berm, you've got a space on the behind side of the berm where loam needs to be put in, needs to be compacted, and then seed even if a little bit takes, it helps to stabilize
So
and
it all
protects
doesn't
the
run
road.
away in a storm.
And so it's important. And then, obviously in the spring we'll have to go back and touch that stuff up.
So what were some of the major areas that you did this year?
Well, for this year,
You got a whole list there. Wow.
well, yeah, we did. Going back to the beginning, taking care of 70 roads is huge.
That's
out of
over 3
120.
years. Yeah.
That's in 3 years' time. So that's excellent. For this particular year, not including what we have on the books for spring, is we have Sherman Ave, which we had a binder on, so top coat, so that project's done. Macquarie Lane from Linda Ave to the very bottom, to where it terminates, that was completed. Annette Drive, that was in terrible condition, completed. Stewart Drive, completed. This is more like in Windstone Estates, that area over there. Windstone Drive, which is a big neighborhood. Not as big as Sea Meadow, but a large neighborhood. Athena Terrace, Julia Court, then we do Roger Williams Court, Oliver Hazard Perry, Anthony Road was in two places. We did from the State Highway Garage to the Railroad Bridge, which is actually town. Previous to that, it's actually state property, so we didn't pave state property. We did reach out to the state and ask them if they wanted to coordinate this at the same time so it would be continuous, and there were, they said that there's no money for that. It wasn't in the budget. Then we picked up Anthony Road again from Island Road right out to the end, Mount View Terrace, which is the very tip, and then Mount View Terrace itself was completed. We did Massasoit Ave and Common Fence Point, North Water, Summit Drive, Narragansett Road, Saconnet Drive, and then we're back to some developments that developers failed to pave. And so I had to write a certificate of default, go ask the planning board, call in the bond where available, and then there was some negotiating that myself and Kevin Gavin, our town solicitor, I give him a ton of credit. He was a bulldog on chasing down these funds.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this could, had the potential to fall on taxpayers.
Yeah.
So he chases money down.
I'm constantly amazed, David, at the amount of stuff you all do, and as well as doing 20 to 30 paving projects a year. And because you're confined by the weather, you can only do it in decent weather.
That's you saw us working. We work Saturdays, and the whole idea, especially this time of year, we have constraints. November can be we wouldn't want to be paving in November. We have to have a 40-degree temperature for 24 hours for paving to be successful. Paving's got to go down at X temperature, rolled at X temperature, and so you have to be on site, and you got to make sure that you have the right tonnage going in there. To follow up on the rest of the roads was Anchor Drive, Sloop Drive, Schooner Drive. These are all off of Bristol Ferry Road, across from the old Warehouser. Soares Drive, and then Dawn Marie Drive, and then off of Middle Road is Greylock Drive and Greystone Drive. Very, very long stretches of road, and we got those done. And then Wentworth Terrace, which was another bond type issue, which we paved. So that is those 26 roads, what we got done this fall. Now on the ongoing paving, which is with another contractor, there are items that we know that if we don't take care of, they have the potential to collapse, cause damage to equipment, or if water gets under, we could be talking serious money. So this always happens. So on Willow Lane, got a lot of complaints about Willow Lane trucks going over and bang, waking people, and it did, So we had to address that. So we had numerous patches on Willow Lane. Now Harrington Avenue was paving that was done before. These little things come up and crop up. So it's basically not a big deal, but we still want hot mix, and so there's a berm installation going on that. Anthony Road, not part of the paving project, but for the Common Fence Point Improvement Association, we were helping to mitigate water that is, because they have gravel in their parking lot. So we've got a berm going across the front of that. Seaconnet Boulevard, right on the water over here. Gentleman putting in new septic system and looking to make sure we can shed a little bit of water. Yes, we can. So we're doing a berm installation on that. Carver Street off of Sprague, one of those steep, narrow roads. It's patches, otherwise we could lose the whole road. We did 2 patches on that. And then in our own yard, which is up for next spring paving, where our fuel service area is, in front of the garages, the asphalt, there's no asphalt. It's mud, and it gets pretty messy in the winter. So we decided on that one to help minimize, the cost, that we're going to go pick up the hot mix, we'll install it, and we'll compact it. And that's a Band-Aid, but it's necessary to do.
I've got to say, though, in addition to all this stuff that you guys are doing all summer long, I know your guys found time to get out to the Bristol Ferry Town Common down by where I live and do some work there. I know you've also kept up Founders Brook Park, and there are probably a bunch of other facilities that you guys do that as well, right?
Yes.
Just to let people know what you're doing. I mean, you're doing a lot of stuff.
There's another 60 or
some
so
odd
facilities.
Yeah.
I could touch on perhaps a few of them. And then, if we can go back, I wanted to talk just a little bit about the spring paving.
Okay.
Because that's part of what the council approved.
Absolutely.
But for some of the other stuff that we've got going on, the periodic maintenance stuff, you're talking about Glen Farm. We're down there all of the time. I know I've got structures. We did a big drainage project in there, capturing all the gutters and downspouts, and then changed the size and capacity of pipes in an outfall location. That was some grant money that we used. And so I've got a structure to lower in there. I do have, very successful, we installed, went through and, essentially this beautiful barn, was flooded with water all the time. Very successful installing a sump pump and tapping that into drainage. And and then there's another building behind that, which I now have drainage, but I got to do the same thing. That's going to be a little more entailed because we got to get in there with cement saws, jackhammers, and cut out a good sized hole. So we're going to put a sump pump in there and have that into the drainage and go to an outfall. So that'll be very helpful. Glen Park, I'll just touch upon them real quick. We open and close that building. There's an event going on November 16th, which is a little late this year, but it's fine because we're behind on everything. But soon after that event is over, we have to go in and we winterize. We do that in-house. Same thing with the bathhouse at Sandy Point Farm. You got to go in and winterize that. This year, kind of unique. The campground managers have left. And
in between.
Right, and so now Public Works has got to go in, and there's quite a bit to the campground between campsites down below, RV sites up ahead, and then the building, the office, and instructions, the restrooms, both sets of restrooms. We have to be able to go in there and winterize that. So we're going to be working on that. Heritage Park, we take care of that. We work with the Tree Commission. The Weaver Cove boat ramp, we do concrete repairs. We take care of some dredging. We do some dock repairs. The thing right now, it needs to be graded. The kids get in there and rough up the parking lots. We want to grade that, and I plow that, as well through the winter. The walking trail around Sandy Point Avenue, that's acres of land, and people enjoy it, though. People use it, so we got to cut it. Working on providing a necessary framework in a phase for the NOV, which is for a dam, a Melville Dam. And that's going along fairly well. And we've got a proposal going shortly to DEM to do that in phases. And I've got a good handle on that. I know what needs to be done, so we'll get that out. The RFP for the transfer station, with the roof and the siding, Mr. Klimm just approved funds to get me working drawings. Not a big deal. And this is not a big project, but we'll take care of that. I've got roof repairs for the town hall, kitchen equipment for the senior center. I've got a CDBG grant.
You're making me tired.
Well, you know, there's a lot. Glen Park,
there's a lot.
you know, heating, vent, and cooling, which
You're not
was
looking.
huge.
You're not going to retire in the near future, I hope. Because
Well,
you know too much, Dave.
Yeah, but
We can't let you retire.
What, you know, my grandfather, you know, you want to leave the next guy clean. You know, you never leave a guy dirty. So somebody coming in, I'll have, you know, things that will be digital, will be up to speed, and you know, so that they're not going to walk into a
Well,
mess.
that's great.
You know?
We're almost running out of time, but I just want to get to your capital improvement projects. You guys, I think, were authorized to buy a couple trucks.
Yes.
Is there other equipment that you need, or are you putting together a
Well,
package?
you know, for this last fiscal year, the council, I went before them and they approved it. Very supportive once again, and we've got 2 one-ton trucks with plows, dump bodies, and one of them will have a stainless steel 2-yard sander. The importance of the 2-yard sander is when we get called out sometimes in the middle of the night because there are ice spots. You know, water didn't get to drain, and it's hazardous. You know, we got kids and school buses and so forth. So instead of packing up a 10-ton truck full of sand, now we go out with a small truck. We're saving money. We hit those areas throughout storms. The town hall's got to remain open. You know, for me to call a 10-ton truck, and you know, so now we'll be able to get in there with a 1-ton truck and take care of those types of items.
Okay, now how about personnel?
Personnel, yeah, I gave and they said it was a very good presentation, so I'll take their word for that on personnel. And we compared ourselves with like communities. Everybody knows, it's not a mystery, that Public Works is severely understaffed. Council did approve 2 new hires. That gets us back to a level where we were about 9 years ago. And it may not sound, I mean, we're still, there's no clerk in the office, nobody typing and doing this stuff. And so, use of manpower. What should we be doing? What are our talents, and where should they be focused on? So, I'm still appreciative of getting the 2. We actually have interviews set up next week. One for Prudence Island and one for Aquinic.
Now, at one point they talked about doing an operational audit on DPW. It seemed to me that an operational audit would actually help you, show what you need in terms of manpower.
I think that's extremely important. It's proven effective. So if we have an operational audit come in by an outside group, and they'll tell us, hey, you're doing this very well, you're not doing that too good, and here are suggestions.
Sure.
So they set goals and objectives for us, but really what they're going to identify is things like salt storage, our physical plant, which is going to be studied anyway. So an operational audit would be excellent.
Yeah, it'll give you a good idea to get a snapshot of.
Yeah, I mean, in comparison to other like-sized communities, square miles, road miles.
Dave, we're out of time. We always are when
That's
we're talking,
unbelievable
especially
to me.
about paving.
Unbelievable to me.
But I'd like to thank you for coming in. I'd like to thank you guys for all the work you do all year long.
I will pass that
Deeply
along to
appreciate
them, and they appreciate it as well.
Doug Smith signing off. Have a happy Halloween, everybody.